All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I know we're in the session in the after lunch, after afternoon, so it's going to be a bit of a moment where we can have a bit of fun. We can go into some of the exciting stuff that we've done with Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell. Just show of hands, how many of you have been using Azure PowerShell? How many of you are using Azure CLI? How many of you are using both? Okay. Sometimes. That's good. So I'm with Alex. Alex is right over there. He's going to come in a minute. We're both PM on the team that is building the Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell. We are driving the work on those two tools, and we're going to show some of the new improvements that we've done in the last few months. Before I go and present myself a bit more, many thanks to the sponsors that make the event available and make it possible today. So who am I? As the little flag on the top says, I'm French, so I can speak in French for those. I can switch to French if we want to. No, that's a joke. I'm leading the work on the CLI and PowerShell tool. I've been at Microsoft helping customers around DevOps. I've been helping some customers implementing CI/CD pipelines. For now, it's been about 10 years. I try to look back how long has it been. It's been 10 plus years now. And I've been touching PowerShell since it was called Monad. That gives you an idea of my age. And anyway, and I've been also playing with Linux environments for a while. And I like to jungle between the two. I like to call myself a bilingual. I try to go from one shell to the other shell and try to replicate what I've done on one to the other. I try to learn from one to the other environment and try to replicate that. And when we think of those client tools, Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell, I try to bring that duality in the tools so we can bring the same capabilities while still being grounded into what makes PowerShell PowerShell and what's a Linux shell. So we try to do that all the way along. I've worked at Microsoft for a long time on operations and automations. That's kind of where my heart is. And I had a chance to speak on stage with the 3 CEOs of Microsoft. So that's kind of a fun fact. It's always stressful to talk with those people, but it was fun to present on all kinds of technologies over the years. What we want to talk today is about the new logging experience. We'll talk about that. We'll spend a few minutes on how that looks. And any of you have used Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell that we shipped since May? So you know what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about what we've done, but how we've done it. I want to tell you the story behind the scenes, the thing you haven't seen that happened behind the curtain between the different teams before we get out. You know, it's like the kitchen. You have the kitchen that does the mess, and it comes out with the waiter, and it's all nice and looking good, and everyone's like, wow, it took 5 minutes. No, it took 5 years. That's what I'm going to tell you. We've done some changes around authentication. We've done some improvements around making the client tools more secure, and we'll talk about why it is important. If you were at the session with Emmanuel earlier this morning on authentication with WAM and Azure Auth, it connects to that session. There are some connections. I'm going to dive deeper here on why it is important and why we want to care about it. We've made some UX improvement. We are going to lightly touch on those. And Alex is going to talk about how we are helping the credential detection in the client tools, how we can help you be more secure at the end of the day. So when I think at login, I think that's what a bad logging experience can look like. That's the haunted house in all the old movies. And what we want is something like that. We want a very nice, welcoming arrival when you use a tool, regardless of which tool it is. But that's how we've been thinking of Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell logging experience. And if you've used it in the past, we had an experience in PowerShell that was grounded, I would say, in how Azure was 5, 10, maybe 15 years ago, like at the very beginning of Azure. It's based on the connect as your account command. or commandlet. And we were using the system browser. We launched the browser, and then we had all kind of workaround when the browser was not available. So we had the device code flow for when you run into a container mode. We had all kind of workaround that kind of went along when Azure evolved and get more secure. So all of those things were like patches that got added on top of each other. And at the end, the foundation was still we were picking the first subscription that ARM would return to us. How many of you get the first subscription return being the subscription you really want to use? How many of you had the subscription that you connect by default to being a production environment and you try to delete a resource group and it says yes and you're like, oh, no, that was not the one I wanted to do. I was going to delete my database. No, that was bad, but that was a design that was okay. As I said, 10 years ago when people had one subscription in Azure. Now, I have hundreds. Same thing for Azure CLI. The login was based with the idea that people had one or two subscriptions available, and it was okay. It was not a problem to move from one to the other. The problem was also when you use login in Azure CLI, because how CLI is constructed. We use the libraries that open the browser, and then the browser remained open. And I was talking with a customer a few months back, and it was like, yeah, at the end of the day, I may have 100 tabs open. They're all on the CLI documentation page. I couldn't care about it. I know about it, but that's how the system behaves, and I have to clean all that mess before I go home. Do you ever have that problem? And then how many of you read JSON fluently? I don't read JSON fluently. However, that's what CLI is returning. It's returning a huge JSON object with all the subscription you have access to. And it's kind of putting all of that on my terminal, and I never read it. So what happened is my history is lost. That annoys me. And then I don't know which subscription I'm into, and that annoys me as well. So we've been working on improving that experience, as I said. We heard the customer feedback. As PMs, the thing we do a day-to-day basis is talk to customers. We talk with you. We hear what your problems are. Sometimes friends and colleagues say, well, the only thing you do is talk with people. I'm like, yeah, that's part of my job, to hear what you have, what problem you have. But then we want to see how we improve that on the long run. And we've built what we call research studies. I'll walk around that in a minute, tell you how we do that at Microsoft. And we build prototype. So we have built some iterations, and I'm going to show you how those iterations looked before we get to the end state. And then preview, or actually GA, I'm going to show you how that looks today. So the customer feedback we got comes from different sources. GitHub is definitely the place where we hear from you the most. If you have an issue, if you have a problem, go to GitHub. We read the issues we have on GitHub every week, every day actually, but every week we triage those issues and we route them to the right team. We prioritize them and all of that. We also have a survey. How many of you have seen that message that says, please give us your feedback in the command line? Well, guess what? When you submit the feedback over there, I read every single feedback we receive. I personally read all of those feedback. I can show you my Excel spreadsheet with all the feedback, categorized, put my notes and my thoughts on each of them. And yes, it takes time. It takes some days, a couple of days, probably every semester, but I take a pride on reading every single comment of our customer. And if a customer spends 5 minutes writing a feedback for our product, I want to spend 10 minutes reading that and categorizing it, because that's how we improve. We do customer interviews. So sometimes we reach out to people who are using CLI and say, well, you have 30 minutes. We want to get in a call with you. We want to dive deeper and click a bit more on what's bothering you. And then we listen to social medias. I was going to say Twitter, no, X now, and other places. And we discovered that logging was the first source of dissatisfaction of customers with our client tools. And it was a recurring source of issues over many years. So we did research. So we have a team at Microsoft that does user research. And they look at the experience, they look at how people behave, they look at the entire flow. And we understand what the problems are through interviews. And we do interviews with customers from different horizons. So we pick customers in Europe, in the US, in Asia. And we look at customers from different industry backgrounds, retail, finance, etc. And we discovered that what I was describing, the unpredictability of the subscription being picked, the no information of which subscription you're using was some of the biggest problem. And we also discovered that the inconsistency between CLI and PS were problematic. And we didn't meet tenant requirements as well. So that was one of the other things that came when you talk to bigger customers with requirements, multi-factor authentication, and all of that was not always met or was complicated to understand with CLI and PowerShell. So we worked with a designer. Yes, we have designers that help us work on command lines. And we have some prototypes. So those are some prototypes that we worked on. Thankfully, none of them went out. I'm not going to go into many details here, but you see, we had here an initial approach of, well, let's try to go through multiple steps where you can select your tenant, and then you can select the subscription, and then you can select whatever. And we tried it, and it's pretty bad. You know what? Because instead of having one entry and you didn't know exactly where you were, now you had three steps to go through before you could go where you didn't know better. So we trashed it. We try again. Here's another way. Okay, let's try to have a combination of an output of JSON with new stuff. And I was like, that's useless. The JSON object is not a JSON object per se. It's part of a blurb that we are exposing the output. So we went back to the whiteboard. We had endless discussion, I can say, late night, because most of our developers are based in China. So we have to do those meetings at night. So we had to go through those many times. We had to change that, and we came up with a new login experience that we're pretty happy about. We bring the new experience only when you're doing interactive login. So that's the other thing. We didn't want to break automation. We didn't want to break any script that exists. So we had to make sure that we would only change that when you're logging in interactively. We still wanted to show all the subscriptions available. But then when you have 100 of those, how do you pick the right one? How do you know where you are? How do you identify them? So we worked with our UX team, as I said, to define how that would look like. What do we expose? How do we allow customers to select what can be done while still fitting with what the framework that we are using allow us to do? We didn't want to create a whole product that was a gigantic thing. It had to remain as contained as possible. And we wanted to keep consistency between CLI and PowerShell. And we wanted to be accessible. So we also work with our accessibility team so it can work with screen readers, because that's important to make sure that people with screen readers and other things can use the tools. So now let me try to go for a demo. I'm going to use it on my Mac. And as I said, it crashed minutes ago, so. Okay. You can see, big enough? Okay, so I'm going to do an AZ login. So that path hasn't changed on Mac, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. We're still opening the browser flow to authenticate. And then we have the list of subscriptions that I have access to. So what we are describing here is each subscription and tenant associated comes with an ID. And for each tenant that I have access, I only have one tenant here. We list all the subscriptions. Each subscription gets a number. They're organized by alphabetical order. So if you know your subscription name, you kind of know which one you're going to find. You still have the ID. So if you have that list on a text file somewhere on your machine, you know which ID you want to use. You can use that. And the one that we select by default is highlighted in a teal color. We pick the teal color to make it visible and compatible with most of the backgrounds. So I know I'm using this PowerShell sublib08 here. It's that teal color that you see. And it has a little star, so I know how to find it. Of course, I've been using it before, so it has that number. Then I can type the number. It's 105. And then by entering that, I have that subscription selected. We have additional message. We will use the announcement at some point to put some important messages. Right now, we just have the information that it has changed. And we have a warning message because we're just going through the change. So that's the new logging experience. Subscription 1. So why did you use subscription 105 instead of subscription 1? Because I had logged in before with this subscription, so it kept the history. If I had not connected with a subscription before, so I can show you that, AZ logout. So when I do AZ logout, it will clear the cache where I keep the history of the subscription I've been using. If I run the login again, it will pick the first subscription that ARM is returning to me, which is the random behavior we had before. And I don't know which one I'm having here. Well, error budget. Okay. Which is definitely not where I want to be. So I need to look to the PowerShell sub 08. It should be in P, and it's 105 again. Okay. So that's how it works. So if you've been logged in once, I can run that again. It will pick 105. And we did that to minimize the number of steps to be authenticated. So you see, it still has the memory of what I just did. And press enter if I have the focus on the window. And here we go. I did it for Azure CLI. I want to do PowerShell for the next demo, which I'll come in a minute. All good?
If you have a lot of subscriptions, your history still.
If you have a lot of subscription, it still goes up to the sky, but it's less up to the sky than the JSON object, first of all. Second, we are working on, I don't know when we'll be able to do it, but we're working on adding a filter on those subscriptions, because in case you have 200 subscriptions, like me, it can be a big list. So we're looking at adding a filter that you could use to say, okay, I only want to see subscription that start with this ID, or I want to see only that list of subscription and passing the ID into a text file. And you will always have those 5 subscriptions that matters for you. So we're trying to find and improve based on that initial experience. We didn't have enough time to do it for the release that we wanted. But those are some of the things we have in the plans.
I was a user and I used to have a little information on the screen. Now everything scrolls up. So for me, it's a little improvement.
Okay.
Did you consider pagination?
We considered pagination to a certain extent. The consistency of CLI and PowerShell was one of the reasons we couldn't do it, because the Python library doesn't allow us to do it that easily. So we had to find the middle ground here. And pagination introduced the risk of having more steps in the way. So always it's the fine balance between not adding more keystroke in order to be logged in and still being able to get all the info we want. I'm sorry. Set a default. So if you set a default subscription, we will not show the list. If you set a default subscription, we will honor that default subscription and you will not have the list. So if you're selecting that default, you're bypassing the list and you're logged in. And I can still? Yes. Correct. Second topic, authentication. So authentication, probably the most important and boring topic, but important. We wanted to keep on three pillars. We wanted to build on three pillars around auth. We want to make it secure. That makes sense. We want to make it simple, so it's kind of flowless for you. And we want to make sure that we have a holistic view of what's happening around auth. I've tried to summarize in this table the different authentication methods that we are supporting with the client tools in Azure. And you probably use one of them. Username and password, device code flow, system browser, service principals, managed identities, federated identities, and web account manager. I'll come to each of them in a minute. Username and password, that's the basic one. You use connect-AZ account and you pass a credential object. And that credential object has username and password that is from your Azure entity, ID, and you're in. How many of you are still using that? Okay, I see. Oh. And the question was with MFA. The answer is username and password without MFA on that list. And that is the basic authentication. And this is strongly discouraged because you don't have any form of MFA. And when if you have MFA enabled, that's not going to work. So we're looking at disencouraging even more that kind of authentication flow. MFA will come in when you're using the system browser flow. So the system browser flow is what we call you open the browser and it has that pop-up window and you have to obey to your requirement from your tenant. That is the default authentication that we have or we had so far. Device code flow, you dash device code or device code, and you have to put the code that comes from the browser. That's kind of a workaround when we couldn't launch the browser by default. Those two authentication methods are made for interactive use. They're not compatible with automation purposes. Automation, managed identities, and service principals are the way to go. How many of you are familiar with OpenID Connect or OIDC or federated identities? A little bit? Okay. So the concept is you don't require a password to run the script, and the script will actually federate the identity that it's using with Azure. So in the example here, you run script on GitHub through GitHub Action. GitHub Action will get the authentication and validate that authentication against Azure. So you don't have to have secrets on GitHub Action. It just work together. What we've added with the last release is the Web Account Manager. So the Web Account Manager is a broker of authentication that works on Windows 10 and above, and it integrates the authentication with the Account Manager of Windows. So it has some benefits, like it is integrated with Windows Hello. It integrates with FIDO keys and other kind of authentication mechanism that Windows supports. And you bring that to your Azure capabilities. I'm not going to go in much details here, but one of the benefits that WAM brings to your system is the ability to have a conditional access or conditional access that enforce token bindings. So token bindings is the ability to keep your token on the system where it runs. So let's say you have your machine. You've been authenticated on that machine. A malicious actor comes and steals your token from that machine and runs or tries to use it somewhere else. That's not going to work. So that's one of the benefits that WAM brings to your systems. It also streamlines the single sign-on, or reduce the number of, it doesn't have the browser window. So it removes all those steps by being more integrated into Windows. I'm going to do a quick demo here. Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to go all too deep dive, but token binding, where would you enable that? Is that an MSOL feature? Is that an additional access thing?
So token binding, the question is, where do you enable token binding? That's a conditional access feature. And WAM will actually understand that conditional access and apply it on the system. Oh, no. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Wrong key. Here it is. Okay. Connect easy account. So that's WAM. I'm using Azure PowerShell on Windows. And when I'm using Connect easy account, I'm not having the browser window. I'm using WAM, and WAM has that pop-up window which is integrated in Windows. It has my MSA account, and you can use all kind of other accounts. You can add other accounts if you want to. But here I'm going to use a Microsoft account, and it will go through the flow of authentication. So as you can see, there is no more browser, no more anything else. It just will do the same flow you've seen with Azure CLI. That's why I wanted to keep it here. I retrieve the same list of subscription I have, the PowerShell one, same number, 105. Hopefully, no surprises here. I wanted to bring a couple of things here that we've worked on. Here it is. So we have some warning message, as you can see, and we're working on those. Those are when you have access to multiple tenants. The requirement for one tenant cannot be carried to another tenant. And if you're logging in with your client to tenant A, and you have access to tenant B, you may have seen those similar warning messages. They indicate that you've been authenticated to a tenant, and the other tenant you're trying to authenticate against doesn't have the same requirement in terms of multi-factor authentication, conditional access all up. And the warning is just saying, well, I'm not authorized to go to tenant B. You have to specify the tenant B if you want to access that tenant. We're working on making that message a bit more clear, and we are trying to simplify that step. Just wanted to give you a bit of information on what we're working on those days to reduce the yellow blurb that comes when you connect to different environment. Flow here is going to be the same. Slightly different, as I said, we're trying to be PowerShell in the case of PowerShell. So the output here remains the subscription object, and you can use that subscription object in your script if you want to. So we have a bit of changes to finish here, but that's the idea. Unfortunately, when we bring a new technology, we always have issues that we haven't been counting for. So we have few issues with WAM today. Those are the 4 issues we have. One is if you're running into elevated mode, the Connect Easy account will fail. We know the problem. We should have that fixed by end of next week, which should be in your hands by the 9th of July. So we're releasing that. We still have a couple of issues with the username and password flow or the device code flow. We are working on those. So if you have those in your default, don't move to WAM now. You're going to face problems here. ISE is a problem that we have. I know some of you are still using ISE. we still have a problem and we haven't figured out the source of the problem. We know it doesn't work, but we don't really know yet what's happening. And we have an issue with some work accounts, and we're working on that. We have a suspicion of where it happens, but we're not 100% sure how we're going to fix that. That's going to come later in August. But we have those issues with top priority on our radar. We use WAM just for interactive authentication. So anything that is automated is not impacted. If you're using MSI, service principal, etc., you should not be impacted by that. There is an issue. We have it on GitHub, and we're keeping that up to date. As soon as we have information, we're sharing it there. WAM can be disabled. If you don't want to use that, you have the ability to disable it and roll back to the previous behavior if you want so. Before I hand off to Alex, is there any questions? All right. Alex?
I'm Alex. I'm working in Microsoft 2 years, and also the same team with the Demi. My team in China, so I fly 12 hours to the Belgium. This is the first time I go to the Belgium. Yeah, it's a great journey, and also I can see a lot of different engineers. Yeah, in Europe. Yeah, which I never been here before. Okay. And in China, we have, I think, media team, more than 30 engineers. And all of us, we take charge of the client tool, CLI and PowerShell, and also Terraform. Yeah, this is my China team situations. Yeah. Okay. That's my introduce. Today, I just use 10 minutes. I just present security related issues or what we implement and enhancement in here. Okay, we can go to this one, the first slide. Yeah. Okay. I just want to talk about some backgrounds and in the backend, what's the story for the potential security risk for this one, and then I can explain why we need credential detection in the command line tools. Yeah, and Palo Alto researcher, he found issues in the GitHub actions when they run the GitHub action in the log or and the output information. They found some key or tokens and also like a credential or secret like this because we didn't had it or didn't do mask or some warning before. This is the potential security issues. And then also it's in fact this same situation in the DevOps containers. Yeah, you can also see some secrets and tokens, also like account key, something like that. So we can see this is like a leak of secret by our command line tools. You can see I'll just give a screenshot in here. This is the value. You can see all the exactly the value in here. So based on these issues, we do have some enhancement for this one. The first step we discussed, we want to give users a warning. We use the standard error stream to give this warning and to notify the users. You can see, this is a key and already show error one. Maybe you set this key, but you forgot and share to anyone who use the pipeline or build pipeline. Then they can find this key, and then they can do something as administrators. And then, you can see, we can go to the next page. Yeah, I just list the two cases. One is in the Azure CLI detection. Another one is PowerShell detection. So you can see we can have the token, the very long string, and also we have the account key and another pattern in here. So currently, we already, because we need to support or scan different patterns, different string lengths, or the different type. Currently, we already support 12 patterns in our command line, and also currently we already identify almost more than 200 commands, include like a security, like account key, yeah. Because in the CLI and PowerShell we have, I think, thousands of. I'm not sure if maybe you don't use so many commands, but in fact, as I remember, in the Azure PowerShell we have more than 5,000 commands and also 150 modules. And in the CLI we also have I think CLI is much more at 9,000 commands, and also more than 180 extensions. Yeah. And currently, we already covered all the command, the scan, and also support the 12 patterns. We can identify all of this. And also, this is just a configuration. If you doesn't want to see this warning message, you just want to show everyone, then you can change it to the false. You can close this feature. Yeah. Later, I will do some case or demo to show what exactly look like. And also in the Azure PowerShell, we do some work. We replace a string to the security string. So this is a PowerShell team suggests security method. I can also use a case or a demo to show you what's the difference before if we use the string and after we use the security string, what's the look like. Yeah. Maybe I can go to the demo part. Okay. Okay, it's zoom enough. Everyone can see here. Okay. I can run easy account get token. Yeah, you can see we have a warning, and if you want to learn more, you can go to this link. And it already shows this very long token in here. And we also have, like, for example, I can see run a PowerShell command, storage key resource Alex. Yeah, this is I already created in the backend, prepared some environment. Oh, you can see this is the value and what we display in here. Okay, this is in our latest version, CLI and PowerShell both we already implement. Yeah, if you didn't upgrade, you can upgrade our module to try this. Okay, next one, I want to show another demo for the web app because this is, I think, is very classic scenarios. We can set a web app. Yeah, we can setting. Resource takes. Yeah, you can see in here, you can't see any key in here, right? And we can set a secret. We can set easy web app setting. Sorry. Okay. Oh. Setting. And I can. Oh, sorry. I need to set a secret. I need set a key in here first, and then we can see the result. Settings. Oh, sorry. I can copy in here. It's too long. Yeah, I can set a key in here, and second one, I just set this key in our web app. Setting. Resource. Source group name Alex. Okay. Okay, we can use some minutes. Okay, I already set successful, and this key not showing here, but actually this key already in our object. So we have a list that one can list all the security or the key in here. We can also have an object, so our detection also can detect the object level. Okay, we can see. Like, okay, I can get this web key. Source. Put Alex. Okay, so you can see in here, we have a warning message. It means we already detect this in this parameter. Our variable included the key, and we can show in here. Well, yeah, set. App settings. In here, you can see in the object. This is the property path. You can see this value in the in this value. So it means if you didn't had this one, you can also get by the property level. Yeah, this is just one web app demo. I can okay, I can show another let me see. Can see. Oh, there's so many. I open so many. Yeah, I can show another demo for the security string. Yeah, for the security string, I can show another demo for the easy keyword. Yeah, easy keyword. We already implement security string. Let me see. Easy. Oh, let me get AC keyword value Alex name value Yeah, in here you can see, in this list we have the name, but we don't show the key in here. So I can get from the property show you where the security string we set in here. I can set setting security. Yeah, you can see in here we already have a security string. This is just a namespace. So in here we don't directly show the key in here. Okay, and also if you want to see this the value, you can use a convert in here. Convert for security string security as a plant as okay. So this is the security string. So if you want to convert to the real key, you just use this one. So this can protect our key in here. Okay. I just also want to mention some plan or discussion in our internal. We also collaborate with our Microsoft internal team. Maybe we can give another package for the library. That library only responds the identify which patterns and which format is the security or key or token, and we just call that one, call that library. And also you can also install in the local machine. I think maybe in the July or August release, you will see this. We will implement this, and also we want to the next step. We have some discussion with PowerShell team like GitHub, because I want to the correct team, the correct product to the maybe Azure PowerShell and the CLI can do the like a detection and also do the mask, for example. But in the client side, for example, PowerShell client, also GitHub Action, they can do some mask. So we don't want to do the duplicate work. So we have some discussion with the different team, which one do which part. Yeah, like this. But this one currently we don't have the timeline and still in the discussion. Yeah. Okay, that's all from my side.
All right. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We are going to be here for the rest of the day. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. And again, thank you very much. See you soon.